In this video, we're going to be taking a look at dividing fractions and whole numbers. Now, it is important from the beginning of this video that you do need to complete this video while you are in class and have access to fraction strips. If you are not in class right now, then you can turn the video off and watch it when you get into class. Now, you will need to turn your Go Math books to page 339, get out your math journal and a pencil. And the essential question that we're going to be unlocking is how do you divide a whole number by a fraction and divide a fraction by a whole number. So let's take a look at that problem on page 339. It says Mia walks a 2-mile fitness trail. She stops to exercise every 1/5 mile. How many times does Mia stop to exercise? Now, what we can do first of all is we could draw a number line. This is just a strategy that you could use. You could draw a number line, divide the number line into fifths. Okay? Now, why fifths? Because we're dealing with the problem of 2 divided by 1/5. Okay, if it was 2 divided by 1/6, we would divide it into sixths, and so on. Okay, now we draw a number line from 0 to 2, divide the number line into fifths, and we want to label each fifth on our number line. So we have 1/5 here, 2/5, 3/5, and I do want you to do this in your Go Math book, 4/5. Okay, now this would be 5/5 or 1. Okay, and then we have 1 and 1/5. 1 and 2/5. 1 and 3/5. And finally 1 and 4/5. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to skip count by fifths from 0 to 2, which will help us find 2 divided by 1/5. Okay, so this is how we'll do it. From 0 to 1/5 is 1, 2, and why are we doing this? Because we're trying to figure out how many 1/5s are in 2. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 1/5s into 2. Okay, so there are 10 1/5s into 2 wholes. Okay, now from here, we have 2 divided by 1/5 is 10. Okay, and we know that because 10 times 1/5 is 2. Now, a little tip here, a little hint. You can use the relationship between multiplication and division to explain and check your solution. Okay, in other words, we just do the problem backwards then. 10 times 1/5 equals 2 there. Okay, so we know that Mia stops to exercise 10 times. So you can see if you're using a number line, we had our problem 2 divided by 1/5. We did a number line from 0 to 2, dividing each section into fifths. Okay, and then from there we skip counted. Okay, next problem, you will need to get out fraction strips. And let's take a look at letter B. It says Roger has 2 yards of string. He cuts the string into pieces that are 1/3 yard long. How many pieces of string does Roger have? Okay, now what we will do, first of all, I want you to take out 2 whole fraction strips, place them side by side. Okay, because the problem that we are looking at here is 2 wholes divided by 1/3. Okay, now what we're doing from here, we are dragging the 1/3 fraction strips to fit exactly under 2 wholes. Okay, you'll be able to see the division of this pretty easily here. So there's 1, 2, 3 underneath this first hole. Pretty obvious then 3 will go under the next whole. Okay, so easily we can see that there are 6 1/3 pieces into wholes. Okay, therefore 2 divided by 1/3 does give us 6. Alright, now we can check this. Okay, if we take 6 over 1 and multiply that by 1/3, that's going to give me 6 over 3, which equals 2 wholes. Okay, so we know 2 divided by 1/3 equals 6 because we know that 6 times 1/3 equals 2. So Roger, we can see, has 6 pieces of string. Okay, we're going to take a look at those questions on page 340, the draw conclusions. And I want you to look at the question, and we'll take a look at the answers that I have here. It says, when you divide a whole number by a fraction, how does the quotient compare to the dividend? Now, the quotient is greater, and I want you to copy this down. The quotient is greater than the dividend. Now, a lot of times we think, okay, it should not be that way. For example, usually whole number division. Okay, for example, 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Okay, oftentimes we are used to that quotient being less than the dividend because we are dividing. However, with fractions, it's much, much different. Okay, because when I divide a whole number by a fraction, you are finding the number of parts it takes to make up each whole. Okay, for example, when we were looking at these problems here, we have 1/3. Okay, 1/3 equals 3 of these 1/3 equals 1 whole. 6 1/3 equals 2 wholes. So whenever we are taking a look at fractions, we're trying to find out the number of parts it takes to make up each whole. Okay, so fractions are obviously a fraction of a whole, so that quotient is going to be greater than the dividend. Now, next one, explain how knowing the number of fifths in 1 could help you find the number of fifths in 2. Kind of talked about that when we were taking 2 divided by 1/3. So the possible explanation here is if I know the number of fifths in 1, I can multiply that number by 2 to find the number of fifths in 2. Okay, I want you to copy that down. And for example, if we're looking at thirds here, we knew that 3/3 equals 1. Okay, so really we could have just taken that 3 and multiplied it by 2, and we would have known how many thirds are in 2, which is 6. Okay, and then the final one, how would you find 4 divided by 1/5? Okay, so since I know there are 5 fifths in 1, you can multiply by 4 to find the number of fifths in 4, just like we did with the 1/3. 2 divided by 1/3. So we would take 4 times 5 equals 20. So 4 divided by 5 equals 20. I do want you to copy that down right in your Go Math book on page 340. Okay, you'll need fraction strips for this next problem on page 340. It says you can use fraction strips to divide a fraction by a whole number. Okay, it says Kalia shares half of a package of clay equally among herself and each of her 2 friends. What fraction of the whole package of clay will each friend get? Okay, so what we're doing here, we're taking 1/2 and we're going to divide that by 3. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to place a half strip under a 1 whole strip to show the half package of clay. And why are we doing that? Because we are taking 1/2 and we're going to divide that by 2. So this is our division problem, by 3. Okay, so place the half strip under 1 whole strip. This shows the half package of clay. Okay, that's being represented within our problem because she shared a half package of the clay equally among herself and each of her 2 friends. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do, we need to find 3 fraction strips, all with the same denominator, that fit exactly under the 1/2. So what we will do, we'll start with our third, for example. You can see that 3 will not fit underneath there. And we'll go to the 5th. There's 1. There's 2. That's not going to work. Okay, so we're going to take our 6th here. 1, 2, 3. And why is it 3? Because it's not only Kalia, but also 2 of her friends, equaling a total of 3. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to, each piece that we can see is 1/6 of the whole, because that 1/6 went right underneath that 1/2 strip. 1/6 of the whole. Now we have 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/6. In other words, we're taking 1/2 fraction strip and we're dividing it up into 3 equal pieces. Okay, now I know that 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/6, because if I were to take 1/6 and multiply that by 3, that would give me 1/2. As you can see with my problem, that is written right there on the screen. Okay, so I have 1/6, fill it in right here. Okay, so I want you to write this answer down. So each friend will get 1/6 of the whole package of clay. Okay, I want you to work through this problem all by yourself. You have your fraction strips already set up for you, so it's 3 divided by 1/3. And when you're finished finding this answer, you can press play, and I will have the answer for you. So I want you to pause the video now. Okay, 3 divided by 1/3 does equal 9. We can easily see this because we've taken 3 1-whole fraction strips. Okay, and we can see that 1/3 goes underneath 3 of these 9 times. So 3 divided by 1/3 equals 9. Now, using a number line, what I want you to do is complete 3 divided by 1/6, or answer 3 divided by 1/6. If you do need to rewind the video and look at how I use a number line at the beginning of the video, you can. And so I want you to work through this problem, and when you're finished, you can press play, and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer that I have here is 18, and we can see that each section was divided up into 1/6. Okay, so what label should I write for each tick mark? You can see that they were divided up into 6ths. Okay, so 1/6 goes into 3 18 times. Now, in your Go Math book, I do not have these on my screen, but I want you to do numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7 all by yourself. And when you're finished, you can press play. I will have the answers for you. You can either use the fraction strips or use the number line like I showed you. So complete numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7. When you're finished, I will have the answers for you. So pause the video now. Okay, here are the answers for 4, 5, 6, and 7. Make sure that they match mine. If they do not, you may need to rewind and rewatch some parts of the video. Okay, wrapping up the video, let's take a look at that test prep problem. And when you're finished, you can press play, and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer is letter D. And wrapping up the video, let's take a look at that essential question. How do you divide a whole number by a fraction and divide a fraction by a whole number? Possible answer is you can model the problem using fraction strips or on a number line. So this concludes the video on dividing fractions and whole numbers. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.